I'm Barack Obama.
We are 5 days away from fundamentally transforming the United States of America.
Over the last 15 months, we've traveled to every corner of the United States. I've now been in 57 states. I think one left to go. Alaska and Hawaii I was not allowed to go to, even though I really wanted to visit.
That generally the Constitution is a charter of negative liberties, says what the states can't do to you, says what the federal government can't do to you, but it doesn't say what the federal government or the state government must do on your behalf.
The notion that I can just suspend deportations through executive order, that's just not the case, because there are laws on the books that Congress has passed. Now, I know some people want me to bypass Congress and change the laws on my own. Believe me, the idea of doing things on my own is very tempting. I promise you, not just on immigration reform. But that's not how our system works.
This morning, Secretary Napolitano announced new actions my administration will take to mend our nation's immigration policy. Over the next few months, eligible individuals who do not present a risk to national security or public safety will be able to request temporary relief from deportation proceedings and apply for work authorization. We have always drawn strength from being a nation of immigrants, as well as a nation of laws, and that's going to continue.
It's impossible to understand the full scope of the administration's changes, but what we are seeing so far concerns us greatly. As one example, prosecutorial discretion for Dreamers is solely based on the individual's claims. Our orders are, if an alien says they went to high school, then let them go. If they say they have a GED, then let them go. Officers have been told that there is no burden for the alien to prove anything. Even with the greatly relaxed new policies, the alien is not even required to prove that they meet any of the new criteria.
You go into some of these small towns in Pennsylvania, like a lot of small towns in the Midwest, the jobs have been gone now for 25 years and nothing's replaced it. And they've gone through the Clinton administration and the Bush administration, and each successive administration has said that somehow these communities are going to regenerate, and they have not. So it's not surprising then that they get better and they cling to guns or religion or antipathy towards people who aren't like them, or anti-immigrant sentiment, or anti-trade sentiment.
I spent the last 2 years of high school in a daze, attended classes sparingly, drank beer heavily, and tried drugs enthusiastically.
Political discussions, the kind that at Occidental had once seemed so intense and purposeful, came to take on the flavor of the socialist conferences I sometimes attended at Cooper Union.
And I think when you spread the wealth around, it's good for everybody.
I chose my friends carefully. The more politically active black students, the foreign students, the Chicanos, the Marxist professors and structural feminists.
Wonderful man, that Reverend Wright.
Right, and who is my pastor, and he is a wonderful man.
We cannot see how what we are doing is the same thing Al-Qaeda is doing under a different color flag. We have supported state terrorism against the Palestinians and black South Africans, and now we are indignant because the stuff we have done overseas is now brought right back into our own front yards. America's chickens are coming home to roost.
My relationship with Reverend Wright. As imperfect as he may be, he has been like family to me.
Gives them the drugs, builds bigger prisons, passes a 3-strike law, and then wants us to sing God Bless America? No, no, no. Not God Bless America. God damn America. That's in the Bible for killing innocent people. God damn America.
I can no more disown him than I can disown the black community.
Afterward, in the parking lot,
I sat in my car and thumbed through a silver brochure that I'd picked up in the reception area. It contained a set of guiding principles, a black value system, it said, that the congregation had adopted in 1979. At the top of the list was a commitment to God, who will give us the strength to give up prayerful pacifism and become black Christian activists, soldiers for black freedom and the dignity of all humankind. There was one particular passage, though, in Trinity's brochure that stood out. A commandment more self-conscious in its tone, requiring greater elaboration. A disavowal of the pursuit of middle-classness, the heading read.
We can't drive our SUVs and, eat as much as we want and keep our homes on, 72 degrees at all times.
And that if everybody in America inflated their tires to the proper level, we would actually probably save more oil than all the oil that we'd get from John McCain drilling right below his feet there, wherever it is that he was gonna drill.
Under my plan of a cap and trade system, electricity rates would necessarily skyrocket. So if somebody wants to build a coal-powered plant, they can. It's just that it will bankrupt them because they're going to be charged a huge sum for all that greenhouse gas that's being emitted.
I'll continue also to fight for what the American people care most about. New jobs.
It's here that companies like Solyndra are leading the way toward a brighter and more prosperous future.
Shovel-ready was not as shovel-ready as we expected.
The private sector is doing fine.
If you've been successful, you didn't get there on your own. You didn't get there on your own. I'm always struck by people who think, well, it must be because I was just so smart. There are a lot of smart people out there. It must be because I worked harder than everybody else. Let me tell you something. There are a whole bunch of hard-working people out there. If you got a business, you didn't build that. Somebody else made that happen.
And that's why today I'm pledging to cut the deficit we inherited by half by the end of my first term in office.
The problem is that the way Bush has done it over the last 8 years is to take out a credit card from the Bank of China in the name of our children, driving up our national debt from $5 trillion for the first 42 presidents. Number 43 added $4 trillion by his lonesome, so that we now have over $9 trillion of debt that we are going to have to pay back. $30,000 for every man, woman, and child. That's irresponsible. It's unpatriotic.
Either we ask the wealthiest Americans to pay their fair share in taxes, or we're going to have to ask seniors to pay more for Medicare. We can't afford to do both.
And under this mandate, the government is forcing people to spend money, fining you if you don't. How is that not a tax?
Well, no, that's not true, George. For us to say that you've got to take a responsibility to get health insurance is absolutely not a tax increase. What it's saying is that we're not going to have other people carrying your burdens for you, any more than the fact that right now everybody in America just about has to get auto insurance. Nobody considers that a tax increase. People say to themselves, that is a fair way to make sure that if you hit my car, that I'm not covering all the costs.
But it may be fair, it may be good public policy.
No, but George, you can't just make up that language and decide that that's called a tax increase. If I say that right now your premiums are going to be going up by 5 or 8 or 10% next year, and you say, well, that's not a tax increase. But on the other hand, if I say that I don't want to have to pay for you not carrying coverage even after I give you tax credits that make it affordable, then...
I don't think I'm making it up. Merriam-Webster's dictionary. Tax, a charge usually of money imposed by authority on persons or property for public purposes.
George, the fact that you looked up Merriam's dictionary, the definition of tax increase, indicates to me that you're stretching a little bit right now. Otherwise, you wouldn't have gone to the dictionary to check on the definition.
Well, no.
I mean, if what you're saying is...
I wanted to check for myself, but your critics say it is a tax increase.
My critics say everything's a tax increase. My critics say that I'm taking over every sector of the economy. You know that. Look, we can have a legitimate debate about whether or not we're going to have an individual mandate or not.
But
you reject that it's a tax increase.
I absolutely reject that notion.
The second thing is that Chief Justice Roberts says that the individual mandate is not a valid exercise of congressional power under the necessary and proper Commerce Clause. In other words, they struck down the individual mandate under the Commerce Clause, but then he goes on to say the individual mandate may be upheld within Congress's power under the taxing clause.
At least we can let doctors know, and your mom know, that you know what, maybe this isn't going to help. Maybe you're better off not having the surgery, but taking the painkiller.
We don't know a lot about Barack Obama and the universe of his thinking about foreign policy.
I will cut investments in unproven missile defense systems. I will not weaponize space. I will slow our development of future combat systems. I will set a goal of a world without nuclear weapons. To seek that goal, I will not develop new nuclear weapons. I will seek a global ban on the production of fissile material, and I will negotiate with Russia to take our ICBMs off hair-trigger alert and to achieve deep cuts in our nuclear arsenals.
But there are questions you don't know in terms of, I don't know what Barack Obama's worldview is. I really don't know.
No, I don't either.
Know how he really sees where China is and where it wants to go and how smart he is about that, or India, or the whole global structure.
Think about it. Iran, Cuba, Venezuela, these countries are tiny compared to the Soviet Union. They don't pose a serious threat to us.
I happen to be a proponent of a single-payer universal health care plan.
We've tried our plan and it worked. If I don't have this done in 3 years, then there's going to be a one-term proposition.
Yeah.